Hello, I'm the Pixel Priest, and this morning we're looking at the 5th chapter of the book, The Things He Carried, by Stephen Cottrell. Jesus carried the hopes of God. God had tried everything to communicate his love, who he was, through his covenants, through the prophets. And there was only one way to communicate his love, in the only language that human beings understand, in the language of a human life. And it was in his life and death that the new covenant would be spoken. Now at this point, it was no longer about what he said, no longer about signs and wonders, but about this act of carrying his body to the cross and submitting to what was inflicted on him. This is my servant whom I uphold. This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him. When he began his ministry, John the Baptist said, "Look, there's the Lamb of God." He knew that God was making good his promise to Abraham. A lamb for the slaughter was being provided. He just had to be that lamb whose shed blood saves. There would no longer be any need for sacrifice. This last sacrifice of Jesus would be the end of all that. No more barriers protecting God's presence and keeping us out. This blood will be shed for all, and it will be an end of it. He carries to the cross every person and every person's death. He carries the possibility of a new covenant, a new relationship, a new heaven and a new earth. He shines a light on the darkness of death, to a banquet where the least and the lost are ushered to the finest seats. And with this, he carried all the hopes of God. He carried a new commandment, that we should love each other with the same love that he has loved us. We should expand the dimensions of our hearts. We should let them be filled. Love one another as I have loved you. Love your enemies as yourself. Pray for those who persecute you. If someone asks for your coat, give your cloak as well. Jesus went as a lamb to the slaughter. He did not open his mouth. All God's hopes and purposes were poured into these hours of passion. Jesus forgave those who killed him, looked with mercy on those who spat and mocked and struck him, not because it was his duty, but because there was no other way, because he carries in his heart the ways of love. That's our reflection for today. But there are some suggestions for our own reflection at home. One is to hold a Bible in your hand, the story of God's hope and the response of his people. Think about what's in it and what it promises. And the other thing is to read Mark chapter 12, verses 1 to 12, and ponder a couple of questions. What is my part in this story? And what does it mean to help Jesus carry the cross? See you next week.